When we picture a brilliant mind, we think of this perfectly tuned machine, just effortlessly solving the world's problems. But what if that's not the real story? What if, for so many, that brilliance creates this hidden internal world of intense pressure and just profound loneliness? What if their mind is busy simulating millions of variables, but on the outside they just seem out of step with everyone else?
So that's the big paradox we're diving into today. It just doesn't seem to make sense, right? We think high intelligence means success, connection, the whole package. But when you look closer, the reality is often a really different and a really isolating experience.
And the key to unlocking this whole mystery, it really starts with a single number: 30. Now, it might not sound like a big deal, but in the world of human connection, that number can be a massive, uncrossable canyon. You see, psychologist Leda Hollingworth realized this wasn't about some personality flaw. It was practically a mathematical reality. She figured out that for people to truly, genuinely connect, their IQs need to be within about 30 points of each other. Once you go past that gap, well, a leader's ideas are seen as too weird, a friend's interests just seem totally alien, and sadly, she found it usually ends in mutual rejection.
Okay, so if the external world is often out of sync, what is actually happening inside? Well, this brings us to the whole idea of the overexcitable mind, a reality that is just so much more intense, more colorful, and way more demanding than what most people ever experience.
Now, this is a radical idea. It completely flips the script. Dabrowski argued that for people with this high developmental potential, feelings like anxiety or even depression, they aren't signs that you're broken. Not at all. They are the growing pains of your personality leveling up. It's about breaking down the old you, the one conditioned by society, to build a newer, more authentic self.
And Dabrowski said this whole process is powered by 5 different channels he called overexcitabilities. Think of them as ways gifted people experience reality with just a higher responsiveness. This isn't just about being smart, it's about feeling everything more deeply. A casual comment can set off this huge internal emotional analysis. A simple pattern in the wallpaper can spark an entire universe of ideas. It's like living your life at a much higher voltage.
This incredibly haunting quote from Franz Kafka. It just perfectly captures that feeling of existential depression that's so common. It's that sharp, painful feeling of knowing you have this vast internal capacity. That's the bird. But it's trapped by the limitations of your current life, the cage. It's the deep, nagging feeling of knowing you are more than this.
So here's the most important part of all of this, that feeling of not fitting in, of being deeply unhappy with a world that can feel so shallow. That is not a failure. Dabrowski had a name for it: positive maladjustment. It's a sign that your inner compass, your value system, is refusing to just go along with a reality that it knows is mediocre or unfair. That friction, that's the signal of your incredible potential for growth.
So let's switch gears for a second and look at the hard science. We've talked about the psychological why. Now, let's look at the neurobiological how. What's actually physically different inside a brilliant brain?
Okay, so after looking at tons of brain scans, neuroscientists landed on this model called PFIT. And what it basically says is that intelligence isn't in one spot in your brain. It's all about how efficiently a whole network of brain regions talk to each other, mostly in the parietal and frontal lobes. So think of it less like having a bigger hard drive and more like having a fiber optic internet connection.
And this leads to one of the most mind-blowing discoveries in all of neuroscience, the neural efficiency hypothesis. For decades, everyone just assumed that smarter brains must be working harder, burning more fuel. But it turns out the reality is the complete opposite.
I mean, this is a total game changer. When a highly intelligent person is working on a difficult problem, their brain actually uses less energy. The neural pathways are so clean and so streamlined that they solve problems with incredible metabolic efficiency. They don't have to spin their wheels because the connections are just that much faster and clearer.
All right, now we can finally put all the pieces together. We've got the 30-point communication gap, we've got the intense inner world, and now we have this hyper-efficient brain. So how do all these things come together to create the hidden behaviors we see on the surface?
Let's go all the way back to our very first question, but now with all this new context. Why would someone with this kind of mind pull away from other people? Suddenly, it's not so much a mystery anymore, is it? It's kind of the only logical conclusion.
Look, when your brain is processing information at fiber optic speeds, a conversation that moves at a dial-up pace can be physically exhausting. And this isn't about arrogance. It's about cognitive ergonomics. It's basically just managing your mental energy. So choosing to be alone or only hanging out with a few select people, it's not antisocial. It's actually a really smart strategy to protect that energy. Leda Hollingworth saw this happening way back when and even gave it this incredible name, benign chicanery. It's all the little deceptions and social camouflage tricks that gifted people learn, often when they're very young, just to get by in a world that can be pretty hostile to how their minds work.
And these tactics are just so common. I mean, do any of these sound familiar to you? Hiding your real interests, simplifying the way you talk, or just staying quiet in a meeting because you've already calculated that the social hassle of correcting someone just isn't worth it. See, these aren't dishonest acts. They are acts of self-preservation.
So, if this brilliant mind is constantly performing, constantly wearing a mask, where does it end? How do you actually move from a life of just protecting yourself to a life of real, authentic self-expression?
Let's just be clear about what we're talking about. Masking is the act of hiding who you really are, just to fit in. For gifted people, this could mean hiding your intelligence, your intensity, or your sensitivity. It feels like it's helping you survive, but it comes at an enormous cost.
I mean, living behind a mask is utterly exhausting. It's like you're performing your personality 24/7. And this constant performance, it's a direct line to burnout, to anxiety, and to this really scary feeling of identity confusion, where you literally don't even know who you are without the mask anymore.
So what's the way out? Well, first, you have to become aware. You have to see the masks you're wearing. Second, you got to acknowledge how much they're costing you. And third, and this is so important, you have to embrace Dabrowski's idea of positive disintegration. Letting that mask fall apart isn't a failure. It's the necessary demolition before you can build something real. And the last step is to just stop following someone else's blueprint and start drawing your own.
And this, right here, is the ultimate takeaway. All those things that cause so much friction, the emotional intensity, the constant questioning, the refusal to just accept a mediocre world, they're not bugs. They are features. They are the source of your greatest potential for creativity, for insight, and for making a real impact.
So let me leave you with this one final thought. For years, maybe your whole life, the struggle has been about trying to conform, trying to mask, trying to shrink yourself to fit into spaces that were just never built for you. But what if that entire goal was wrong? What would it look like, starting right now, to build a life, a career, and relationships that are actually designed for how your brilliant, efficient, and intense mind really works?